Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Very happy to welcome Tony Troppy. He is the fellow behind what is happening at the Robinson House. Good morning, Tony.
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me.
Tony, first of all, some people in our listening area might not even be familiar exactly with the Robinson House and maybe a little bit of its history. Can you bring us up to speed?
Well, certainly. It's a lovely Jacobean Revival building that's on East Market Street. It would have been part of what was known as Millionaires Row in Akron on East Market. Most people may still be familiar with the old Hauer House across from the chapel on Fir Hill. Mm-hmm. And there's a lovely church there, the St. Paul's Church on that corner. And from that point heading east, there was a series of great mansions that were kind of the remnants of the Gilded Age of the industrial barons that had helped build the community really prior to the rubber industry. But the Robinson Mansion was built in 1906 by Byron Robinson, and he was the founder of he was the grandson of the founder of the Robinson Clay Products. And they had built quite a family business and served the community well right from Middlebury, which is just a few points further east than this residence.
And then it had kind of like an interesting path that it took once the Robinson family was no longer living there. What happened with the building?
Well, Byron Robinson and his family lived there for a number of years. Unfortunately, Byron passed away early on. He only lived there for 4 years, but his wife and their family lived there till 1939. Wow. And at that point, she willed the property to a very interesting philanthropic humanitarian from New York who had started a place for women in distress. Mm-hmm. And it was known as the Florence Crittenden Home for Unwed Mothers. And he built a series of community homes and gathering spots around the country, starting in New York City and working his way west. And he would look for growing communities that a place to help encourage women through their situation of problems, and really empowered them to become matriarchs of their household. He gave them place, room, board, and then really most importantly, he gave them job training. It tied in with City Hospital and also the Hamel Actual Business College. So these ladies were given some additional skill sets in nursing and shorthand. So equipping these ladies now with skill sets that they could go beyond and become gainfully employed, and oftentimes take care of their single parent households.
Wow. How long was it a home for unwed mothers?
Well, that would have been there from 1939 to about 1974.
Really?
And yes, they had a long, rich legacy there. And at that time, the records show that well over 4,000 women had sought refuge there at that particular location, lived there through their pregnancy, were able to give birth to their children, and then helped to find gainful employment and be on the road to helping have their families contribute.
My goodness. Had no idea that there still was such a thing as a home for unwed mothers in the 70s.
Well, yeah, it started, like I say, in the I think Florence Crittenden, we'd have to double check, but I think he started his outreach probably in the mid-20s. And from that point, he'd built quite a legacy across the United States, the Florence Crittenden Home for Unwed Mothers.
And Florence Crittenden, a man, as Florence Ziegfeld, or one of the, not a woman Florence?
Well, I think I'll have to double check, but Mr. Crittenden had a daughter, Florence, and I think was named after her. And she died tragically in her youth. I think she may have had contracted some disease at some point, but he did this in honor of his daughter. He had a thriving pharmaceutical company and pretty much used all his wealth the rest of his life to give to others.
To help others.
Yeah.
Can't think of a better use of it. So 1973, what happened then?
1974, I believe, University of Akron acquired the property, and I believe they put the Lone Star fraternity there. So it became an animal house. Not sure.
Oh my. Quite different than what. Okay, but
Inspired John Belushi to higher works, I guess.
Oh man. And every scene from that movie comes flooding back into its yeah. So University of Akron had an animal house there basically for do you know how long the guys were living there?
I believe it was 74 to maybe 84, and then it became an office building for a property management real estate development company that did a number of properties in Akron at the time. I can't think of that gentleman's name, but we'll dig it up. He lived there or worked there for about 10 years, and then sold the property to Ted Good, who had founded Steinway Hall. He was the first franchisee outside of the state of New York to be able to sell Steinway pianos.
And I think that's how most people in this area think of that building. Steinway Hall and
the Summit Choral Society all teamed up there, and not only did they sell pianos and teach lessons, but they had a series of great performances there in the really expansive third floor ballroom there. So there was quite a celebration of the arts ongoing there.
Absolutely. And I can remember attending some of those events. When did it come into kind of disrepair?
Oh, Ted Good did a wonderful job maintaining that property for the time that he was there. When we came across the property, it had been vacant for about 6 years. And we'd had great interest in the building and its structure because it's really the only example on the National Registry in this region of a Jacobean revival structure. And the architect of significance designed and built the home for the Robinson family. So it's quite a celebration of an architectural form that just is kind of not being seen any longer. And so we were interested in the property and how it would be maintained. And the prices were exorbitant, naturally, because it was such a unique classic architecture. And the property had it had never not had heat in it. So it wasn't like the interior suffered. It had some challenges on the exterior and some other maintenance related on the grounds, but the home itself was pretty much preserved in its original grandeur with the original woodwork and the beautiful hardwood trim, ornate detailing, the solid masonry. It's just really just an elegant interior that had been maintained by Ted Good, and he did a good job.
I'm just curious as to you personally, so there's certainly no right or wrong answer here. You personally, what is it about that architecture that you love so much?
Well, it's just so unique. I mean, it was a transitional style between the Victorian era and some neoclassic revival elements that were in there. So you can really see the architectural detail of the classic order. A lot of the woodwork is identified as kind of a Corinthian detailing with the columns and the capitals all participating in a architectural form that it took a lot of love and craftsmanship to build that type of interior, and you don't see it everywhere. I mean,
right?
It's quite unique.
Couldn't do it today, could you?
Well, you could do it at great expense if you could find the craftsmen to devote the time and investment of that time.
So a lot of people would take a look at that building and say, wow, I really appreciate this. This is amazing. Not everybody would jump in, purchase it, decide to really do something with it now. What was that behind you, making you do this?
Well, I wake up every morning and my wife says, "What is making you do this?" so
I ask that on her behalf.
I'm used to that question. I mean, basically, it's the man in the mirror who tells me. But no, I'm not only am I a believer, but I'm a receiver, and so I feel like a lot like John Belushi in his second movie, Blues Brothers, that he was on a mission from God. Not only was he going to save the orphanage, but he was going to have fun doing it. So my worldview is such that I look at old buildings, and I think in terms of metaphors and how old buildings can be brought back to life, just like we can be brought back to life in our
Yes.
in our relationships, in the opportunities to use our skills and our times and our treasures to help to bring good about in a community. So I look for plywood and graffiti. I look for lemons to set up a lemonade stand. I mean, we've got to figure out ways to take problems and turn them into solutions. And oftentimes it's done with problematic real estate that looks like it's blighted, and it needs to be refocused, re-energized, and put back on the tax roll and have it serve multiple generations, because these structures are rare, and they're actually built for much longer than people give them. Often at times they wind up in landfills. So the three-prong approach of attacking the old real estate is to take blight and turn it into light, do it environmentally sensitively so that you're not filling up landfills needlessly, and thirdly, figuring out a way that's going to be a catalyst to encourage others to good works and to continued investment in areas that need attention.
So you have dreams for it.
Well, we've certainly got plans for it. I mean, our friends here at Broadway and Market Street, the Akron Pregnancy Services, has been here for 30 years.
Yes.
And they've been doing the good work of helping ladies find their way and to give them the opportunity to make the right choices for them, where they're given alternatives to figure out ways to have their babies and to not only to have life continue, but actually afterwards. So the support services that APS provides, and the education and the sharing of the gospel and the sharing of resources. I mean, that's a great work that Akron Pregnancy Services was started under the mission of collaboration with the chapel here in Akron, and some other great faith-based groups came together and said, this is what we believe, and this is what we want to see help the community. So I've been aware of their group for years. We actually came up to Broadway and Market and bought the building that they were in, and understood that they needed some help. This real estate here had served them great for 30 years, but the next chapters going forward really kind of part of their mission was to be more into the neighborhood and more into a location that was going to accommodate their clients. So it came natural sense for me as I was sitting in the Everett building, which was our first restoration project downtown that we did in 1996. The Everett building at the northeast corner of Main and Market. We put a big clock up on the building.
Yes.
We believed it was time for downtown.
Oh, cool.
And I was actually sitting in the bank president's office of that building at Second National Bank. Well, the president of Second National Bank happened to be Byron Robinson. So here I am sitting up with my feet on his desk trying to figure out how to help APS and what to do for them. And it just came about that, well, why don't you take them back where it all started? Where did it start? It started at the Robinson Mansion with the Florence Crittenden Home for Unwed Mothers. So it's like, okay, I love how history repeats itself, and it's really all his story anyhow. So let's give God the credit. And let's figure out a way to use the imagination and the illumination to practice some enlightened self-interest. That means, well, you got a situation that needs a remedy. Well, think out of the box. Think about others first, and then what happens is your own best needs will be taken care of in that process. So there's the dream, and there's the reality, and the plan unfolds.
So cool. So Robinson House will be the new home for Akron Pregnancy Services. We're going to find out more visiting with Tony Troppy. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community. Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Tony Troppy, who is renovating the Robinson House, new home of Akron Pregnancy Services. Such a neat story of coming full circle. And it's just so perfect, isn't it?
Well, it's lovely when a plan comes together, and it's really nice to see the signature and the hand, the invisible hand that's really to get the one to be given credit for, our benevolent creator. He charges us to be co-creators, to come up with new ideas that are going to be part of the solution. And I feel that Akron Pregnancy Service provides solutions for so many every day. So it's a legacy of good that we're honored to be just a participant in.
Well, I know they're just thrilled. They're so excited. It's been the main theme of their annual walk was to help with this effort. And they've been really looking forward to it. Any idea of the timeline, Tony, of when they'll be moving in?
I always like to say I hope it happens in my lifetime. So let's just go with that. And
okay.
Then if you've ever seen the show, The Money Pit, it talks about being,
yes.
We'll have you in 2 weeks, or we'll have you by Christmas. But realistically, we're on a good track here. We've got some work that we've been waiting for some COVID-related crises to overcome. We have some equipment, mechanical equipment, all new state-of-the-art HVACs going in there that'll give them comfort and zone control and efficiencies. So that equipment is arriving on site. We're in there putting in all the ductwork, and we're getting started on a handicap accessible elevator system. We're doing the electric upgrades. We've already done a lot of the site and ground control with a new parking lot. We've got a new roof on the building. We're doing the building envelope, completing the tuck pointing, and it's just gonna be a process that we're muscling through, and we'd like to have them in here probably sometime early fourth quarter.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Oh, I was just going to ask you, what did the pandemic do to you? How have you navigated that?
Well, pandemic gave us all times to reflect, and gave us all times to think about what really was important, and a lot of the things that we'd actually, I think, people had taken for granted. We were on a tremendous ascent in 2019 for really a dynamic 2020, and we lived with that quiet expectation that things were just going to continue to build. And I think sometimes we take things for granted, and this gave us time to reflect and start really realigning some of the perspectives, the values, and the principles and practices that really need, I think, some refinement. So as far as our business is concerned, we've been doing residential construction at Main and Market. We're taking the old building that Mr. Robinson used to work out of, the old Everett building. We're turning that into 20 loft apartments there.
Wow.
A lot of our work is for folks who are essential workers that live and work near downtown Akron and wanted a place where they could work from home. And so we're building these cool studio lofts that can have office space / residential loft living. And it's in a historic building that's completely redeveloped with new mechanicals and state-of-the-art communications. And so our work has kind of shifted into more of a residential activity, which there's still a very strong demand and increasing. So for people wanting to live close to where they work, or their work pattern is actually being redefined by where they live. So come back to work from home is our new motto here at losakron.com.
Boy, didn't that happen. That was something that people, I think, were beginning to investigate a little bit, and then this actually pushed the issue, and a lot of folks found out, wow, I can be very productive here at home. I think a lot of companies are realizing this works.
It kind of just advanced the mega trend that was occurring that just kind of sped up the whole process of providing a need for places to work from home. So we've taken office buildings now and converted a lot of that space into residential. So they're truly live-work studio lofts.
That is so interesting. Well, okay, now as we think back about the Robinson House, then, what is it that I'm sure the inside has to be renovated a bit to be functional for APS, and APS is not going to take over the entire Robinson House, correct?
Well, they're starting out taking the main 2 floors. There's a 3rd floor in the building. We were kind of leaving that for some expansion space. There is some space on the 2nd floor that they may be looking for some additional type support groups that would want to be associated with them. They're a faith-based place that there's a lot of believers that have different types of businesses that are going to serve the kingdom alongside them. And I feel like it'll be easy for them to share some space with folks that are just going to help them expand their footprint and to be maybe more effective at serving the community.
So they're the anchor.
Yes, that's correct.
And you can go to APS Friends, I think, has a lot of good information to find out more about Akron Pregnancy Services, or akronpregnancyservices.com, and find out all of the good services. They recently merged with Pregnancy Choices in Canton, so one big happy family, all providing the same kinds of services to women in need. And right now, during this time, there have been a lot of women in need when people that normally would be able to buy diapers would go into the grocery store, and there were none. So where do you go? And APS and Pregnancy Choices were right there providing drive up, here are your free diapers, and people could be on their way and their babies taken care of. It's been amazing. So how do you see this all taking place now? This is very exciting. What's kind of next on your list here as far as getting from here to there?
Well, the train left the station, and it's running a little behind schedule, but we know our destination, and we know the time frame that we'd like to achieve our goals. So basically, it's just responding to the critical path and the milestones of construction along the way that need to be clicked off and on a regular incremental basis. So we're forging ahead on that project, and we've got the right team assembled. We're working with some magnanimous subcontractors that have given freely in helping us keep the costs in control. I want to call out our friends from Pride One, especially Doug Lair and his strong leadership and his lovely wife, Leslie. They've really been instrumental in helping us bring it together. I want to call out our friends from S.D. Myers, Scott Myers and his lovely wife, Gina, and Dale Bissonette. I mean, these are folks that are behind this vision and are actually helping bring it to reality. So the steps are clearly defined, and we're being faithful daily to push this project to completion.
I watch a lot of HGTV. There's always that scene where they punch a hole in something and go, oh no. Have there been any of those oh no surprise kind of things? I mean, it's a house.
You know, we had spent a lot of time in that house before it was clear about what needed to be done. We enlisted the architectural services of Alan Burge and Lauren Burge, his wife, from Perspectus Architecture out of Cleveland. They do a lot of restoration consulting. They were instrumental in helping us navigate the entire Department of the Interior, National Park Service, and the State Historic Preservation Offices. So we've spent a lot of time seeing what we had there. We've had some challenges with the roof system that was, clay tile that Mr. Robinson made, trying to get that reproduced with the right color and the right content. But Hazlitt Roofing did a great job for us there. And, we've just got a good team assembled. We've got people around us that want to see this project successful, and they want APS to continue to thrive. And this is just going to be a perfect home for them to nestle into and to help encourage others who need it.
Are you tearing down walls, or are you trying to keep it pretty close to its original look interiorly?
Well, yeah, because it's on the National Registry,
right,
and because of the nature of the construction, the existing footprint was, or the existing wall configuration, actually with very large rooms that allowed for social distancing and allowed for smart planning and placement. So we kind of did a programmatic design under Alan Burge's direction. We were able to take the existing footprint and the needs parameters of the group and melded them together quite nicely. So we're not doing a lot of demo. It's selective at best, but there's such ornate crown moldings and casework and base and hardwood floorings and such an ornate place that you want to preserve as much as that you can to figure out a way to use it.
Oh, yes. How does this compare to other projects that you've worked on?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of our other work has been primarily commercial. So we've had, concrete and steel, high-rise buildings. We just renovated a building at Main and Market for the second time, the United Building. It was built in 1923 for the United Cigar Store Company, but we turned it into not a boutique, but a boutique hotel. So 72 rooms went in there under the direction of Pride One Construction again. And we opened that right after New Year's and then promptly closed it here after 72 days.
Right.
So
closed forever or closed for temporarily?
Oh no, nothing's. We're in a process now of looking at our demand generators.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with the Hall of Fame and the Soapbox Derby and Bridgestone.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of work with SUMA and Cleveland Clinic, and we do a lot of work providing rooms for demand generators with the Convention Center and Blossom. But all of those activities now are dormant for a time, and so we've opted to follow that protocol of safety and just kind of taken our lead from others around us. And when they need rooms, we've got the place to stay. We've developed a whole arts district right around the art museum at Maiden Lane and the Historic Arts District, and we've renovated about 15 buildings in that immediate vicinity. So we've really changed the perception of Akron to a regional or national spotlight. We ended up putting a wonderful jazz club about 5 years ago known as Blue Jazz in a building. So we're involved in the entertainment industry, creating a place to celebrate the arts. And, we bring the best and the brightest across from New York to Chicago. They would land here, and our motto was we wanted to have a place for them to come for dinner, stay for the music, and stay for the night.
Yes.
So we're kind of hitting all of those gamuts of different uses in an urban environment that had been blighted and forgotten.
Yes.
And we're just now waiting for a resurgence of demand as the hopefully the COVID situation begins to improve.
Amen, and it will. I can't let you go before throwing something in the suggestion box for you. I just saw a picture, and it looked almost like the Hollywood Bowl boxes, the way they have them, except separated. So little, like they wheeled them in, little wheeled-in boxes that people could put chairs in, all set up. And I'm thinking, maybe Blossom Music Center could do this, out in the grassy area, and have a way that there could be somebody on stage and everybody would be very separated, and just something to think about there.
Well, that's the kind of ingenuity and spirit of invention and innovation that really is going to help change the game, change the perception. We really just need some solid direction, some leadership, and we need some vaccine. We need some advancement in the healthcare industry. So all of these across the board are going to be solutions that are going to help bring back a situation that was totally unexpected. So that's our hope.
We sure want to thank you for, let me see if I can remember all of these, bringing blight to light, being environmentally sensitive, and a catalyst to good works with what you're doing with Robinson House, creating a new home for Akron Pregnancy Services. Tony Troppy, thank you for all you do in our community.
Well, it's been an honor. I sure appreciate you inviting me in, and I wish the best for our friends at APS. They're a great group, and I'm just honored to be a part of the solution.